What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It is I, your more phenomenal host, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new episode for you guys today of A-plus More Phenomenal, your weekly stop for your Power Rangers, Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, now Ultraman news and reviews right here over on our YouTube page, going live every Saturday at noon Central Time for you guys. And then, of course, we got fantastic content for you guys throughout the remainder of the week. But definitely thank you very much for certainly joining us here and starting off your weekend the right way to go ahead and sit down with us, joining our family, talking Power Rangers, Super Sentai, anything Tokusatsu related. That's usually the way I like to go ahead and start off my weekends, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much, guys, for certainly joining us today. Got my cup of coffee, so hopefully you guys do also. So sit back, relax, whatever your choice of beverages, wherever you at. Maybe it's 5 o'clock somewhere. You guys are sipping on a beer. I'm not going to judge you. So definitely enjoy today's episode, guys. It is, in fact, Saturday afternoon here in Dallas, Texas. The weather dropped. The temperature definitely dropped. I don't want to say this is the first time that it's felt like winter here in Texas, but with the Texas weather being as bipolar as it is, there are some days you'll go outside, it'll be like 70 degrees in the winter. You come outside the next day, it's in the low 30s, and that's exactly what we're suffering with out here today. We don't have any snow like some people in the mid east and things like that, but the temperature definitely did drop. I want to say we've also got like huge gusts of winds right now. So like even though it's in its 30s, it feels like the wind chill factor has a feeling in the teens right now. So definitely a little bit chilly out here in Fort Worth, Texas, guys. So hopefully wherever you're at, you're staying a little bit warmer than we definitely are out here. But I'm kind of curious to know where you guys are certainly enjoying your weekends at. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. It's really going to be mostly live viewer questions. This week was a little bit busier for me than I personally would have liked in regards to being able to actually sit down and prep for this weekend show. This weekend show was supposed to be at least either a Dino Fury second half of season 1 review for you guys or an awards. So I didn't have the opportunity to sit down and rewatch Dino Fury again here this week, but if anything, I probably am going to go ahead and try and do so this week. So in an impromptu episode, in the sense that we're going to be really diving into your guys's live viewer questions. That's really going to go ahead and be the main focus of today's show, guys. So if you do have any live viewer questions you still want to go ahead and submit, you probably have a couple of minutes. Feel free to submit your live viewer questions over to aplusmorephenomenal@gmail.com. Again, that's aplusmorephenomenal@gmail.com. You can send them throughout the entirety of the week if you certainly like to. If you happen to watch an episode, hear a news article, read a rumor, have any particular questions in regards to the future of Power Rangers, whatever the case may be, feel free to always submit your questions over to aplusmorephenomenal@gmail.com. Probably a couple honorable mentions that, if anything, we probably will talk about here today for you guys. But before we do, I do want to give some shout out and to some love for people that are joining us live today. We got Adam Perea, my cousin, in here. Thank you very much, man. He says it's finally the weekend. He says, woke up to go pee. It felt like checking my phone. Well, hey, I appreciate you being the first here, Adam, to certainly say the least. We got Enrique Perez in here. What's up, Enrique? He says, also, I saw the Saber and Zenkaiger Superhero Chronicle in English subs. Yes, I've been hearing a lot of people talking about it this past weekend. Unfortunately for us, we have not watched it. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe Kamen Rider Revice is in it. So unfortunately, just not going to get my support at this particular point in time. Frankie in the house. He says it's a cold day, 23 degrees. For wherever you're certainly at. I'm kind of curious, where are you at, Frankie? Why is it so cold where you're at, man? You know what I mean? I can't even be talking. I'm in Texas, right? And the fact that it's like in the 30s here. We got Blossom in the house. Thank you very much for certainly coming through. JB says, what is here too? Thank you very much, JB. Good to see you in here as always, my friend. We got Charles in the house. Thank you, sir. Johnny Marrero certainly coming through. We got Jordan in here too. He says, yo, making breakfast while watching your show. Good way to start the day. Thank you very much, man. I hope you got me wondering what you're cooking over there, Jordan. Or are you like I refer to myself as a cereal killer because I love me some breakfast cereal. Sometimes like just late at night. It doesn't even have to be for breakfast. Like I literally can eat cereal throughout the entirety of the day. Like I will literally sit up in my bed at like 11 o'clock at night watching some of my shows, just grabbing a late night bowl of cereal. I love cereal. I go through milk and cereal way too quick around this house. Um, JB says, what says, yeah, this week has been crazy. It was 70 yesterday and cold today. That's right, JB. You are definitely here in the Texas area. I know that for sure. So yeah, you're experiencing this weather just as I am. We got Marcelino Vasquez in the house. What time is it? Adventure time. Wait, wrong franchise. Thanks you for coming through, Marcelino. Good to see you, man. Yo, Milk birthday come. Oh, your birthday. Oh, MLK birthday. I was like, Milk birthday. Who's Milk birthday? Yeah, MLK birthday coming up, Adam. Yeah, this upcoming Monday, guys, January 17th, Martin Luther King's birthday. Funny story. My job, ever since the George Floyd thing happened like a couple years ago, my job has been trying to, I think they created like a diversity program for work or something like that, I guess, to help like just us as a company, um uh I don't want to say learn about African American history or something, but I guess maybe just kind of bridging that gap, or at least like educating us a little bit, right? So they created this diversity program at work, and that's cool and all. I have no problem with it. But yesterday, Friday, we wind up getting an email from the diversity group, or from the lady in charge, and there was a section in there for the diversity program, and they were talking about, hey, look, MLK birthday is coming up on January 17th, yada, 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 telling us all what he stood for, how we should certainly try and celebrate the holiday. And they're like, well, because of this, the offices are going to be closed on Monday to recognize MLK's birthday, because I think it's a federal holiday, if I'm not mistaken. So they were telling us the offices are going to be closed. Take that time to go ahead and educate yourself on MLK. Just kind of spread the word. Just do some learning activity, like try and bring some awareness type of thing. So I was like, oh my goodness, we've got Monday off, and tell me why. Like literally an hour before I left work, there's another mass email that goes out. Oh, by the way, guys, we are in fact working on Monday. I'm like, wait, you're just taking my day off away from me all of a sudden. They were like, yeah, there was some miscommunication, and we're not we will be, the offices will be open on Monday. And part of me was just like, well, what the hell is the point of a diversity program, right? Like, I thought the idea was for us to spend that time recognizing and learning and educating and doing something good with our time off, right? So we create a diversity program to bring recognition, yet we're not going to recognize his birthday and have the day off. Okay. I mean, granted, I probably would have sat at home and not really done too much anyway, but maybe I'll watch a little MLK documentary. Selma's a great movie. If you guys haven't had the opportunity to check it out yourself, I would definitely recommend it. But I'm just scratching my head like, okay, so you're pushing diversity and learning and recognizing, yet now all of a sudden miscommunication, we're not coming into work on Monday for MLK. I'm like, guys, this is all ass backwards for me. But I just wanted to share that story with you guys. Who else we got in here? Trey's in the house. Thank you very much, Trey, for certainly stepping up today and enjoying your weekend with us. We got Isaiah in the house. Good afternoon to you too, man. Frankie's in Wildwood, New Jersey. Okay. Who else we got? Did I give you a shout out already, Jordan? I believe I did. He says, definitely a serial killer, but I'm making some pancakes and eggs right now. Sounds delicious, bro. Those Aunt Jemima pancakes, I'm hoping. Doomsday, what's up, Doomsday? Good to see you in the house. Also, Enrique says, and Zenkaiger will end in February in the close of Super Sentai's 45th anniversary before Don Brothers in March. Yeah, that's usually how it works. Usually you'll get the end of Zenkaiger, and then the very next week, the new series will certainly start. There's really no wait period in between them, which I absolutely love. And yeah, even Marcelino says, seen Selma, loved it. Great movie. If you want to learn a little bit more about MLK, definitely take your time. If you guys are off or anything like that, spend this weekend learning a little bit something about MLK and certainly what he stood for. Most definitely. Isaiah says, is there any Power Ranger content? Yes or no? Not really. This is definitely going to be more of a live viewer questions, if you will, more than anything here this week. I didn't really see any big news drop, with the exception of In Space. I think dropped a couple of more episodes over on YouTube, guys. So again, if you are embarking on that journey of Power Rangers on YouTube, In Space is currently being posted up there. I want to say that they're up to like in the 20s as of right now for that series. So if you need some content to definitely watch when it comes to Power Rangers in Space is being uploaded. We got Ram Jam in the house. Thank you very much, Ram Jam, for coming through. Gabriel, what's up, Gabriel? He says, haven't been in a more phenomenal video in a long while. How have you been? How has fatherhood been treating you? Everything all right? Yeah, things are going well, man. Little man is growing up. He'll technically be a 1 month old in regards to newborn standards on January 22nd. So that's pretty exciting. He just had his checkup this past Monday, I believe. He's continuing to grow. He's 8.2 pounds as of right now. So, very healthy boy. We just changed his formula also because he's been having some, I don't know if it's been like an allergic reaction or some sort of reaction, like little bumps on his face and on his thighs, like kind of dry skin also. So they've switched out his formula. They've given us some like sort of cream to kind of help with his dryness on his skin, which they say is pretty common amongst preemies, because apparently, like when it comes to preemies, since they're born early, I think the longer the baby is inside of the placenta, like the placenta fluids is really what allows the baby's skin to, I guess, be a little softer, have a little bit more moisture in it. So the fact that he didn't spend his whole time cooking in the placenta, if you will, and came out earlier, I think it probably affects his skin a little bit. So he's a little bit more dry than normal. But other than that, he's doing great, man. He's doing great, really progressing. I think we've been practicing a little tummy time with him right now, trying to get him ready for, just getting his neck stronger and being able to turn and move around and things like that. But it's pretty interesting. I think for me, um, fatherhood is great, by the way, scary as can be, but I absolutely love the guy. I mean, I literally just fall in love with him every time that I look at him. It is one of those things where, in the preemie stage, everything was very much sort of on a schedule. You know what I mean? Sleep 3 hours, wake up, eat, go right back to sleep, sort of thing. But as he's growing and stuff, his sleep patterns are changing. I feel like we have to be a little bit more attentive to things now. Helping him progress with his development. It's not just a case of, let your baby sleep because his brain is still kind of developing. He's at that newborn stage where he's out now, and now it's about sort of development and raising him and stuff. And so, yeah, a little bit more activity when it comes to having to raise a kid. So, but I love it though. I really do. It's some days stressful, some days not so much sleep, especially when it comes to Cindy. I find her sleeping in a lot more just because of the fact that, getting up in the middle of the night and changing the diapers and feeding and stuff, that definitely does take a toll. So a little bit repetitive, a little bit tiring and stressful at times, but as rewarding as I could possibly have asked for, man. So it's been pretty incredible, Gabriel. So thank you very much for asking. But yeah, no, things have been going great around here, man. Let's see here. Anybody else? Um, Ram Jam says, I just finished watching Kamen Rider versus Super Sentai Superhero Senkai the second time. I like the first one where you had two franchises face off. Who was better, Kamen Rider or Super Sentai? I haven't had the opportunity to check out this one as of yet, but it is getting a lot of praise. I've heard a lot of people really enjoying it and certainly checking it out. So I'm glad that you guys definitely have, for sure. Definitely. All right, guys. Real quick before we get into your live viewer questions, I did want to let you guys know we are getting to the end of Ultraman Trigger along with Zenkaiger. Ultraman Trigger, I believe, dropped episode 24 as of last night. There's only 25 episodes in the season, so we're down to the last 2 episodes here. So I definitely will be checking out Ultraman Trigger here this week. I'll have a review waiting for you guys. If not Sunday, then definitely on Monday to go ahead and kick off the week. So I'm really eager to go ahead and wrap up that series. And then, of course, Zenkaiger is almost done as well. We just had episode number 42 that is available up on our YouTube page. If you haven't checked out our review, it's in fact the debut of Don Momotaro from the upcoming Don Brothers series. So really cool moments that we definitely dive into and talk about in there. So if you haven't checked out our review for Zenkaiger episode 42, it is up on our channel. And again, that series is coming to a close here within like the next 3 weeks or so. So it should be pretty fantastic. Last thing I definitely want to go ahead and bring up to you guys' attention. This past week, I was searching the social media, um, especially over on Twitter for some Power Ranger news. So I go to the search bar, type in Power Rangers, go through like a timeline to kind of see if there's any news that I missed, any announcements that I missed. And I did see Power Rangers trending. What's up, the A Games? Good to see you, A Games 10. I did see the Power Rangers trending, but not necessarily for the reasons that I thought. Um, and so I wanted to bring this to your guys' attention because this is a series that I've been watching in regards to the Book of Boba Fett. I don't know if there's any Star Wars fans out there. I don't know if there's anybody that's been watching the Book of Boba Fett here on our channel. But we've been doing reviews over on our other YouTube channel, A Plus Hero Report for Book of Boba Fett. And for some reason, this past weekend, or this past week in the latest episode, Boba winds up bringing in a new group of people to add to his entourage, right? Boba's trying to take over as the daimyo, or the leader, if you will, the crime syndicate leader for his city in Mos Espa on Tatooine. And so in this episode, he winds up hiring, or at least bringing in, a group known as the Swoop Bike Gang. It's like these four individuals that have these cool, like, bike speeders. And so when we're introduced to them, they're rocking these guys. And I saw this on Twitter, Go Bubba Fett Rangers, because the Swoop Bike Gang has three bikes, swoop bikes, and they're all super bright colors. Super bright colors. You got the green, you've got the red, the blue, and the yellow. And even watching this episode, I thought to myself immediately, like, what the? We got Power Rangers in this episode? Like, what is going on here? But the aesthetics are just so bright and so popping that I think for some people that watched the episode, it kind of took them out of it a little bit. Kind of making fun of not only the designs, but how colorful they certainly were. The fact that, Tatooine is mostly just all sand and everything's like depleted and it's just run down, right? Everything is just rusty. All the colors are really dull and things like that. And then all of a sudden you got this swoop bike gang that comes in, and they're just popping. Like their colors are just bright as can be. And it feels very sort of displaced, if you will, for some people. And so the fact alone that I literally went and tweeted or searched for Power Rangers, and this is what certainly came up, definitely made me laugh that people were in fact kind of making a connection between Star Wars and Power Rangers because of this. So I would be curious to know what you guys think. Listen, for me, I don't have a problem with it when it comes to Power Rangers, right? People have this thing of keeping Power Rangers sort of, or not Power Rangers, a Star Wars sort of like in its own box. And anytime that there's something that's like different or doesn't like necessarily line up with what somebody's thoughts of what Star Wars should be, there's always this massive sort of pushback, if you will, right? But I don't mind the bright colors. I kind of dig it. I think the idea of them switching things up, adding something different, really does go a long way. Not everything certainly has to be the same. These people riding these bikes, this swoop bike gang, they're literally humans with cybernetic sort of enhancements, right? And so anytime that you've got a gang, I'm sure that there's probably something they're riding around. And George Lucas used to be a big car collector back in like the 60s or 70s. Used to love cars, right? Race cars, just really like spoiled out cars sort of thing, really big bright colors, if you will. So I feel like there is a little bit of a nod to George Lucas and the things that he used to love back in the day. And I also think the idea of keeping Star Wars sort of trapped in a box of what it should be only is really hurtful to the franchise in a sense. So anytime that they want to go ahead and take a swing and do something, maybe it may not necessarily be appealing to the eye. Maybe it certainly took people out. But I really enjoy the uniqueness and the idea of taking a chance and taking a risk and introducing new things to Star Wars sort of in the long run. Like for me, I'm kind of curious about the background. Like, where did they get these swoop bikes from? Did they soup them up certainly themselves, sort of thing, right? Like, if you're a gang, you got to ride around in style, if you will, right? So I kind of idea that there people have to take notice of you when you're rocking these beautiful ass bright bikes. But some people certainly feel differently. But for me, I really appreciate the change of aesthetics and doing something a little bit different. Sometimes you swing, sometimes you miss, sometimes it doesn't necessarily work. But there are some times when you take swings like this, and before you know it, 10 years down the line, everybody looks back at it and recognizes, oh, that's right, that actually wasn't so bad to begin with, and appreciate it certainly a little bit more. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I just wanted to go ahead and bring that up as a quick little honorable mention in here this week, because yeah, I saw Power Rangers trending on Twitter for a completely different reason, honestly. um Blossom saying Star Wars having Power Rangers colors, holy moly cannoli. Yeah, that's the same thing that I thought too. I was super surprised when I saw it. I'm like, what the am I watching all of a sudden? But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Who else we got? Edward Sanchez Productions in here also. Doomsday saying Power Rangers plus Star Wars. Um, Jordan says, I saw this on Twitter before I watched the episode and got a kick out of it. Kind of odd for Star Wars, but I'm loving the show too, though. Yeah, a little bit odd for Star Wars, but I think, when it comes to Star Wars, there is a level of oddity in it. I mean, we are literally in the galaxy far, far away. Even going back to the prequel series, I feel like even in the prequel series, there were things that were pretty bright back then, compared to some of the monotone colors that we wind up getting in the original trilogy. So it's not like it's not upon Star Wars to be bright. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you look at some of the past speeders, some of the Naboo starfighter, I think was like big, bright and yellow sort of thing, right? So colors do belong in Star Wars, but I can see the pushback of, well, it's on Tatooine. You're doing all this on the sand planet. So people will get butthurt about every little thing, but there's always a backstory, right? All these characters have their own personality traits, things that they're certainly into. And if they're into sporting really colorful, hot ass bike sort of thing because of the fact that they're a gang, like it makes sense to me, it makes sense to me that it definitely would be in there. Jordan says, I don't trust Danny Trejo, by the way. Yeah, I mean, who does, though? But no, I love me some Danny Trejo. I was so glad he was in this episode. Um, Mike Knight, hi. What's up, Mike Knight? Good to see you in here. Also, always coming through, man. Thank you very much. What's up, Heart Chalk? What's up, Heart Chalk? Thank you very much for certainly coming through. Also, we got Christopher Throbin in here, fresh cut Adam. Yeah, I've had this for a couple of weeks. I had this like just before Christmas, I believe, just because I wanted to feel a little bit more adultish, especially when it comes to taking holiday pictures, at least with the family and stuff, presenting the baby and things like that. I definitely want to go ahead and just look the part, look the fatherly part, if you will. No, I don't know. I just wanted to do something different, man. I was tired of all the hair on my head for a little bit, but trust me, it'll be back. It'll be back in like I can't remember how long it took me to grow it out that long, a long time, but my hair grows back so quickly, man. It'll be here before you know it. All right, guys. With that out of the way, I think that will probably be everything. So I guess we should probably. There is one more article that I wanted to talk with you guys about that I saw from the Tokusatsu Network this past week. I think it was one of the casting producers giving us some behind the scenes information from Toei in regards to like how they cast their people. But I will hold off on that until next week when we have more things to definitely discuss. So next week's episode should be a little bit more packed than this. So if anything, I guess we should transition over to our live viewer questions. Also, guys, if you are interested in joining our community outside of YouTube, join our Discord. We do have a Discord forum community for you guys. There is a link in the description box below. The Discord was initially available for our Patreon supporters of the $1 tier a month. But because we took down our Patreon, we decided to go ahead and make the Discord community available to everybody, available to the public. So outside of our YouTube community here that I post on the community tab from time to time, keep you guys updated. If you want to go ahead and carry along some of these conversations outside of the comment section and things like that, feel free to join our Discord. We're not only talking about Power Rangers, Tokusatsu, and Super Sentai, but there's a plethora of other topics for us to certainly talk about. If you're big into television shows, movies, sports, wrestling, whatever the case may be, other things that you guys certainly want to go ahead and talk about, there's certainly a room in our Discord to definitely discuss it. So yeah, feel free to join our Discord. I think Christopher Robin just slid into our server, is what the notification said. So thank you very much, Christopher, for certainly joining our Discord. And it may be a little bit bare around the edges in certain departments, but feel free to start a conversation or jump into a conversation at any particular point in time. All right, guys. We've got quite a few questions here. So let's go ahead and sit back and knock some of these out, shall we? Let's see here. First up, Miss Jessica Friedman coming through. I hope the connection is a little bit better here this week. I'm using my new camera, so hopefully visually, quality-wise, it's popping for you guys. Hey, Adam, do you think Dino Fury Season 2 is going to drop on Netflix, or when do you think it'll drop on Netflix? And would you like to see the Rangers have different holiday specials besides Halloween and Christmas? Yeah, I would. I would love a Valentine's Day one, honestly. I think that would be pretty cool. Have we had a Valentine's Day like special? Like I feel like maybe we've had an episode or two that might dive into Valentine's Day, but I think a Valentine's Day would be a pretty good one. Hell, I'll take a Thanksgiving one. I'll take a Thanksgiving one if they ever want to switch it up too. Yeah, give Valentine's Day and some Thanksgiving a special. I think that'd be pretty cool. Something to be thankful for, sitting around with the Rangers. I think Thanksgiving would probably work really, really well. Or if anything, I was gonna say maybe interchange them, right? Like have a Halloween and a Thanksgiving, but maybe not a Christmas. But who knows? I just know this. I don't necessarily want a season where I've got like four holiday specials. Because if they're all gonna just be turned into clip shows, nah, I'm good. But I wouldn't mind interchanging them out every now and then. As far as like when Dino Fury season 2 will drop, I'm gonna say if I had to guess, and again, this is just my own speculation, I'll say April. I'll say April. Give me maybe like springtime, April. Whether or not that's going to be completed or just a part one, I don't know. Like I wouldn't mind seeing a part one Dino Fury season 2 drop in April, May, June, July, August, September, and then maybe in September drop part two, or August drop part two, or September. That's like a 5-month wait. I could probably hold off. If I have like 10 episodes just drop at once, especially on a streaming service, I feel like we are a little bit more understanding as a society and more patient when it comes to streaming services dropping stuff. Like when they drop an entire season, like I don't think people complain about waiting a whole year for the next season to drop. I don't know why it feels not as long compared to like watching it being televised on a weekly basis sort of thing. Um, Maybe it's because we're just getting so much at once that it's easy to hold us over to, you know what I mean? Or it's easily accessible to go back and rewatch anytime that we want to. So I'm okay with give me like an April release and like a September release. But that's just me. That's just me. I know a lot of people probably just want all of season 2 to just drop all at once, and we'll see. We'll see how they handle it. Doomsday says maybe an April Fool's Day special. No, I was gonna say, oh, I read it wrong. I thought you said like maybe release it on April Fool's Day, and it'd just be like one episode. Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Mike Knight says, take away the Christmas, don't need it. Yeah, again, I think that if anything, it's one of those things I wouldn't mind them switching it out. Maybe one year do a Thanksgiving, maybe the next year Christmas sort of thing. Johnny says he thinks that we're going to get all episodes of season 2 dropped all at once, possibly, possibly. But definitely note that when it comes to, thank you, Bethan Thomas, for joining us over on our Discord. Just got another notification. Um, just be aware when it comes to Netflix, while they are known for just binge dropping stuff, they have been dabbling a lot more in like the weekly releases, along with like dropping them in parts. So there's definitely a lot of flexibility that they certainly have. Ooh, a Veterans Day episode would be good. That's a good call, Mike Knight. I actually would not mind. I actually would not mind that one at all. I think that would be a great little paying respects for those that have protected this country. I think that'd be actually pretty cool. Marcelino says, "Why did you take down your Patreon?" It just became difficult to go ahead and juggle all the different content that we were trying to create, because it was just me, Indy, and Stuart. Stuart's kind of taken a back seat to the channels, with the exception of A Plus Hero Report on the weekends. His brand new job has got him working a lot more hours. Plus I think he kind of wants a little bit more of his life back, if you will. You know what I mean? Can maybe enjoy some time with his girlfriend. I know they had just recently, over the past couple months, moved into a brand new place and stuff. So a lot of changes definitely in Stewart's life for sure. Um, so yeah, and because of that, Indy having to deal with his own stuff too. Me with the newborn and the baby and stuff, it just really took a time away from creating content for the Patreon. So if anything, that's where it comes from. Charles does have a question. He does ask, "What is blackface, and what does uh, Common Writer Revise have to do with this?" Instead of explaining it, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and post a link here for you, Charles. We talked about this um, back on, does it give me a date? I don't remember the date, but I did send a link. So if you are interested, the link that I sent is for the video in which we talked about it. It does have timelines on there too, so you don't have to sit through the whole episode. At the 1 hour and 14 minute, we talk about Common Writer Revised story details that has eventually came out. And then at 1 hour and 22 minutes, my rant on Common Writer Revised controversy and the blackface. So a little bit of an education and a little bit of a history there for you to learn a little bit more about why we're taking our stance, why we feel the way that we do, and what exactly blackface is. So if you want to learn a little bit more, I did go ahead and provide you with the link for that. Yeah, we talked about this. Let me see. Does it tell me when I posted that video? Let me see. This was back on July 24th. We talked about that July 24th. Yeah, even Byron agrees. A Valentine's Day episode would be really cool. Jordan says April Fool's episode with Jane and Jay Borg while the Power Rangers go out of town. Yes, I love it. See, coming up with the Mackenzie Radcliffe. Thank you, Mackenzie, for joining our Discord also. I do love that idea, Jordan. I really do. We got Usai in the house. What's up, Usai? He says, "Sup, Adam. Hope top of the new year is treating you well." Very much so far. What's up, Datilla? Good to certainly see you in here also. All right. Next couple of questions. AJ, what's up, AJ? He's got some questions. Isn't it still incredible that Tessa Rao became our first female Green Ranger as Izzy Garcia, and that she even ripped her skirt off on screen? I've heard many questions on why it took Dino Fury for a female Ranger to rip her why it took till Dino Fury to rip her skirt off, even though in reality it's obvious that in Super Sentai most of the gender swapping Yellow Rangers were dudes. Since the early announcement of Tessa as our female Green Ranger, we all knew that the show would eventually have to somehow explain the change in order to accommodate the Sentai footage and make sense to Sentai purists and just ignorant people, considering it's green now instead of yellow. Yeah, I certainly didn't mind it. I mean, granted, look, you definitely had to have some sort of moment, because just based off of Sentai footage also, right, the Green Ranger definitely did not have a skirt. But I also thought it did lead to a great opportunity for them to kind of take that and turn it into a relatively big moment, in the sense that, that's skirts don't necessarily have to always represent you. You know what I mean? That's You can rock and wear whatever the hell that you want. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I think it also kind of gives you an eye-opening um example of how the morphing grid works. The fact that a morphing grid does sort of recognize your sexuality, if you will, right? The idea that it automatically recognizes, like, oh, this is a female, so let's go ahead and put a skirt on there. Doesn't mean that you got to rock it, but I love the fact that it lent to a very great moment. And if anything, too, I think it just lines up perfectly with what Izzy's personality has been like all season long. It hasn't felt out of character at all for her. So I really enjoy that moment, man. I really enjoy that moment. Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Marcelino. He says, I didn't need an explanation since there are female rangers who didn't have skirts without explanation, but seeing her rip the skirt off was pretty cool. I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. Um, let's see here. With season two, no, hold on, real quick before Johnny says, I honestly want to see all episodes of season two drop because I'm tired of hiatuses and I rather just see all the episodes, and I'm tired of waiting for like 6 months. The only problem with that, Johnny, is that like there is going to be a hiatus to some certain extent, right? Like you get all the episodes that you want, and then what? Right? Like you get the whole entire season, but then I'm sure there's going to be a part of you that's like, I'm ready for next season. And then technically that's going to have to be a little bit of a hiatus also, right? Waiting 6 months, waiting another year sort of thing. So I think there's always going to be some level of hiatuses. It's the same thing when it comes to just watching regular television. A Flash season wraps up like in May or something. We still got to wait a couple of months until September rolls around. The same thing when it comes to Dino Fury. If they do drop all of season two on Netflix, we're still gonna have to wait. You know what I mean? We're still gonna have to wait for new content at some point in time. Next question from AJ: with season two of Dino Fury approaching, how excited and pumped are you? And what do you hope to see when the show returns? Plus, coming out swinging with the bang. How you feel about Power Dino Fury season one being number one and in the top 10 on Netflix around the world since the show finally left Nickelodeon? Love that many international fans already enjoying the show as much as we do. Does this make the movie transition to Netflix even more valuable? Yeah, that's one of the things that we talked about. The idea of moving to a streaming service is just so incredibly eye-opening for people. Being able to put your content out there in front of people, whereas Nickelodeon was very much hindering you from doing that and only allowing a handful of viewers to be able to actually watch your content and have it made available to them. So now that you are on the bigger stage, and especially Netflix, that's not just a domestic streaming service here in the States, but also internationally. Now you've got people from all across the different countries getting the opportunity to go ahead and check out the content. So, that's one of the things that we were always hoping for when it came to Netflix or just any streaming service. Like, if you are going to be moving your content to a streaming service, please make sure that it's a service that has that gives people eyes to be able to put on your content. I don't want like some little measly 10 million people. Like, no, if you can give me 30 million, 50 million, maybe more than that to be able to watch this, yeah, man, that's a great opportunity. So it definitely will bring value to Power Rangers for sure, and definitely more awareness. But I am pumped for season two. I am really looking forward to it. I would love to see them coming out swinging with a bang. I mean, I felt like season one left off on such a great cliffhanger, in the sense of building that momentum that despite what happened with them, the Power Rangers are very much excited to continue facing off against the Sporix, trying to find answers, trying to bring down whatever threat is certainly out there. So for me, it would be really cool to kind of see them just jump back into a fight when we come back from this season, whether that be they located a Sporix and they're in the middle of fighting. Like, I think that would be pretty cool to kick it off in regards to a first episode. Um, for David Yost's potential Power Ranger reunion series, Quantum Continuum, do you think it will be the same MMPR Rangers but from a different time period or dimension. We have already seen Jason and Tommy return recently in the TV series, but not properly. Jason was handled badly in Beast Morphers, while Tommy was written as Lord and Savior in Ninja Steel. I mean, isn't that accurate though? Lord and Savior? No. Thank you, Joshua Stock, for joining us over on Discord. Just got another notification, guys. Thank you very much for certainly joining us. Um, I do think it'll be the same MMPR ranges. That's interesting. I had never heard anybody suggest the idea that it might be a different time period or dimension. That would be a pretty cool twist too, AJ. I'm not going to lie, but I feel like David Yost is probably going to be focusing on the MMPR cast that we grew up and knew and love. I think if anything, I'm really fascinated to kind of see how they handle the Trini thing with the unfortunate passing of Twee years ago. So I would be kind of curious. Like, I wonder if instead of Trini, is Aisha going to be in the series? You know, is this just going to be following just the original Rangers? And like Rocky, Adam, Aisha, like, are they not going to pop up in this series at all? I think it would be cool if they did, honestly. But I haven't had the opportunity to see what the script of David Yost's looks like. But I can tell you the idea of a reunion series does entice me. It really does. I think it's and I mentioned this before when we were talking about it this past week. We were having a huge push for hashtag quantum continuum. It is one of those things where MMPR is just it sells. It brings in the dollar bills for Hasbro. So to push MMPR forward makes sense. I think, similar to Cobra Kai, how Cobra Kai, if you come to think about it, is kind of a reunion series for the Karate Kid movies. I think people have become really interested to kind of see what happened to Johnny and Daniel all those years ago, right? And to be able to kind of have their stories told again has been really popular amongst people. So I think the idea of revisiting classics, that especially classics, like, I don't necessarily know if it would work for everything, but like Sex and the City, it worked for, I think, the idea of bringing those characters back. And I think it's one of those things when you've got a franchise that has ingrained itself in the pop culture that we live in today. I think it's there because people recognize it and people love the characters and love that moment in history. And so Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I think, lines up perfectly with the reunion series, because I think there's a lot of generations that grew up on MMPR that would honestly love to see what these characters are up to and see if they're still out there kicking ass and taking names, and picking up where we left off. Not necessarily right where we left off, but 20 plus years later, I would love to see what those adventures are. So, like, as long as it's not a case of like, hey, we're just sitting around in a round table and discussing things like the Harry Potter thing that we wind up getting on HBO Max. Like, no. I don't want to sit down round table to play some catch up sort of thing. Like, no, I want to see an actual series with the story. And I think that's exactly what David Yost has in mind. So I like the potential. But yeah, I do think it's going to be the MMPR Rangers that we've come to know and love over the years. Jojo, what's up, Jojo Johnson? Good to see you. Is Zoojer adapted next? That is the rumor as of right now. Talks behind the scenes is that, from things that I've heard, at least just from other people that have more connections than I do, rumblings behind the scenes is in fact the idea that Hasbro probably only has rights um, Real Soldier. So anything after Real Soldier probably doesn't have the opportunity to get adapted, whereas anything before Real Soldier does. And because of the rumblings that I've been hearing, that Hasbro wants to make sure that this is quite successful, so they're definitely taking their time, maybe revisiting some things to make sure that they got all their T's crossed and I's dotted, if you will, that they're going to be taking a little bit more time with developing and creating this massive interconnected world that, to hold us over until we do get the reimagined stuff from Hasbro and Jonathan Entwistle, that they may fall back on adapting Zoologia. I think one of the things that Joe told us from the Illuminati was that when it came down to what the next adaptation was going to be between Zoologia and Real Soldier, they went with Real Soldier. So it sounds like Zoologia was pretty close to it actually happening. Um, so maybe this is their opportunity to adapt it. So rumors right now is that after Dino Fury, Zoologia may be next, to hold us over for that 30th anniversary, and then to get us into the reboot and reimagine. And again, that's just rumors and speculation. Nothing has in fact been confirmed. So don't take my word for it or anything like that. I'm just telling you what it is that I'm hearing as of right now. But yeah, anything can change, man. Anything can change. Everything is always very much fluid. Going back to the Netflix release, Escaroma says, I think weekly new episodes. Interesting. I like the way you think there. Datilla says, how do you think Nick feels that Power Rangers Dino Fury is voted number one show on that poll they asked on Twitter? Probably like, damn, we should have kept this goddamn show, or at least promoted it a little bit better. I don't know. We'll see. I wonder if, I don't know if Nickelodeon even feels like they took a hit or not. I have no idea. Byron says, question, Adam, if Fern, Izzy's girlfriend, was a ranger, what kind of arc would you give her? Interesting. What kind of arc would I give Fern's character? Um, maybe like maybe to prove herself. Maybe to prove herself. Izzy's been a ranger for a while now with this new particular group. Um, for me, it would be cool, with Fern sort of being an outsider, even though have seen her in passing, like, hey, what's going on? Hey guys, I haven't really seen her interact with a lot of the main Rangers. So, I think it would be kind of cool if there was like a little bit of jealousy and competitiveness maybe from Fern. I mean, she is an athlete, right? If she did end up sort of becoming a ranger, as like, think of like a seventh ranger, I think it would be cool that, maybe she tries too hard, in a sense, trying to really impress her girlfriend because she wants to be as cool as her other ranger friends, and try and leave some sort of moment for her to certainly have, but she continues to like falter because she's more focused on trying to impress her girlfriend and try and be something that she's not. So maybe something along those lines, right? Like the trying to fit in, not only as a new ranger, but also trying to impress your girlfriend in the sense of like, look what I can do, type of thing. You know what I mean? So I would like to see that, maybe her falter and trying too hard to impress. All right, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and go back up to some of these other questions. Gabriel Glasgow. What's up, Gabriel? Appreciate you coming through. One special comment and two questions, if you don't mind. First off, can't believe 2021 was the 20th anniversary of Power Rangers Time Force. That's crazy, isn't it? Which I believe, is Time Force up on YouTube yet? He says, Jesus Christ, talk about a season that held the test of time. I'd easily rank Jen, Wes, Eric, and Rancic top three in their positions each. Agreed. Totally agreed with you. That's what Jen is, like one of my favorite pinks of all time. Wes is definitely up there, right? People absolutely love him. I like Jason Fount. I mean, come on, everybody loves fucking Jason Fount as a Red Ranger. Eric, on the other hand, he's such a badass, man. Like if you had to rank badass Rangers, he would definitely be in the top three. I'm kind of curious if you guys consider Eric a Red Ranger or not. I'm kind of curious. And then Rancic, yeah, just an undeniable villain, incredible storyline and arc in general. So I totally agree with you. He says, with Jen being the number one pink, she's definitely my number one pink. Katie and Trip are pretty underrated as well. This season is peak PR acting too. Some of those scenes are still really powerful, like Eric handing over his morpher to Wes, or Wes standing up to his father, and the season opens up with the murder of a ranger who just proposed. Yeah. Time Force is without a doubt one of the greatest seasons ever produced. And I do feel like Katie probably deserved a lot more shine in that season too, honestly. Sarav, what's up, Sarav? I appreciate you certainly coming through also. Um, Number two, do you think Time Force would be what it is if it was created in today's time? Ooh, I think so. I think so. I think the fact that it holds up after so many years, that people still love that series, even going back and rewatching it, I think it shows not only that it stood the test of time, but I think it's got sort of universal themes that I think everybody can kind of relate to. And so I definitely do think that even in modern times, if it was created in today's time, yeah, I think it definitely would still hold weight, honestly. This is just me, but you know how many actors do you wait? This is just me, but you know how many actors from many other TV series don't want to reprise their roles when it comes to revival and reunion series. When it comes to Power Rangers, do you think some actors don't want to return because not only did it feel embarrassing being in the kids show, but perhaps some actors feel like what's the point of coming back if they don't have much screen time to actually get their hands dirty? We know back in MMPR the actors did do their own stunts both in civilian and in ranger suits. Maybe if the actors were able to do more do their own stunts and wear their helmets while being safe, it would make their return be more meaningful, actual screen time with their characters that we all know and love. I don't necessarily know if it's the idea of feeling embarrassed being on a kid show, but I do think your second point about perhaps some actors feel like what's the point of coming back if you don't have much screen time to actually get their hands dirty. I feel like that's probably more key than anything, right? Like I'm not going to come back just to have 2 minutes of screen time and then you just sort of move on to something else, right? Um, that's why one of the reasons why David Yost said, like, look, if I ever come back to Power Rangers, I want it to be meaningful. I want my character to actually be able to do something. And so I think that's probably what it is more than anything. Probably one, money, pay, right? You want to be paid for your time, which is understandable, but two, just making it worthy enough to even want to come back. It's the idea of just putting on a helmet or putting on a costume probably doesn't get anybody too excited, but if you know you've got a relatively big role in the episode that you're playing, I think that'll definitely go a long way. And I think also too, I think Power Rangers has kind of been in a downward trajectory since its time in Saban era and Disney era sort of thing, right? So I think maybe the level of storytelling has taken such a dip that, I think actors would probably be more open to the idea of coming back if you actually were more creative and actually pushed the storyline further. You know what I mean? But coming back, not to say that they're embarrassed on being a kid show, but you want to come back to something that's hot. That if you're picking up a script here, this is the role that we want you to play and come back to. If it's a weak ass script, I don't want anything to do with it. That's just going to be a waste of my time. So I do think pay, creativeness when it comes to just declining in regards to storyline, in regards to even bringing these people back, and then three would be the idea of they just don't have big enough roles, if you will, to warrant them certainly coming back. But I think a lot of that can change, though. I think a lot of that can change with Hasbro. If Hasbro wants to bring back some of these actors. And again, one of the things that we've talked about, with them going into more of the animated realm, there's a huge possibility of things that they want to create, whether it's prequel animated series, whether it's a animated series of a brand new team, whether it's an animated series that's revisiting past Rangers that we've known over the past 28 years sort of thing. There is an opportunity there to go ahead and have such a compelling story in these animated forms that you actually go back and bring back some of the actors that played their roles, right? Like maybe we get a Mystic Force story and you want to get some of those actors. This is an opportunity while you're not bringing them on screen. We can certainly use their voice. So I think it's important for Hasbro to recognize the people that came before this reimagining and rebooting and really showcasing them some love and trying to get them sort of involved with the franchise again. Because I think they want to be involved. I just don't know if Hasbro, I don't just don't know how Hasbro is reaching out to them, if at all trying to get them involved, you know. So I do think more people probably want to be involved than we personally even think. J.K. Lawrence. Oh, quick shout out to Sam for certainly coming through. Thank you very much, Sam, for being in here today. It's brilliant to see Power Ranger fan films like Unworthy, Rise, and Shattered Past. Have you seen those fan films? I've seen a couple of episodes of Unworthy. Haven't seen Rise of the Ninja. Is that with William Schufelt from Ninja Steel? Is that his, the Rise of the Ranger? I feel like that might be him. I haven't seen that one. I've seen a lot of promotion for it though, but I don't mind them. I used to be big into fan films, maybe like ten years ago or so, but it's been a while. JK Lawrence has got a couple of questions. Thank you very much for your questions, JK. Do you think that in season 2 of Dino Fury, Void Knight might join the Rangers after saving Santora? We know his motivation isn't to destroy the world like nearly every villain, but to save his love. That's definitely a possibility. Um, hey, Illuminati's in the house. Thank you very much, man. Says love the show, buddy. Thank you very much. Always appreciate the support from you guys each and every week. So thank you very much, guys. Listen, I did see, I had been hearing some speculation in regards to Void Knight, or at least seeing some people's theories about, maybe, with the cracked visor and helmet that we saw towards the end of Dino Fury season 1. Simon Bennett has come out and said, listen, there's definitely a lot more story for Void Knight to certainly be told, whether that be in flashback modes or whatnot. Maybe Homeboy comes back as the brown or bronze ranger. We don't really have a lot of footage in regards to it, but there's been a lot of speculation as to who could be under there, right? Like I felt like earlier on in the season, maybe there were some ideas. Maybe it's Mick. Maybe Mick comes back for one episode and he dons the costume, right? But because the fact that there is a costume made for it and it got such limited time, I think this is a great opportunity to actually use like original footage, to use that costume and just create a story around it. And if that means Void Knight goes from his purple and silver to the bronze and silver, maybe there's something in that explosion that changed him or jarred him back to reality, if you will. But there's definitely a story there. Whether or not it's in order to save Santora, or I have no idea how big of a role Santora is going to play. But I am curious to see where it's going to lead. But always a possibility. I'm not going to say that that's out of the question at all, JK. So I definitely do like the way that you're thinking. Christopher Throbbin says, "Oh no, not Mick, please, not Mick." Well, you know what? I based off of Real Soldier and who they actually had to play in under the helmet of the bronze or brown ranger, it wouldn't be too far out of left field, because like I felt like his appearance in Real Soldier was kind of on a comedic level, if you will, maybe not even necessarily taking itself too seriously, but because it was just so brief. But yeah, I'm at this point, I don't necessarily think it's Mick. I'm kind of almost leaning towards the idea of it being Void Knight in that armor, but we'll see. We'll see how the storyline plays out. JK also says, personally, I like the idea that Void Knight will convert to the good side and be a ranger isn't far-fetched. It certainly is not. I mean, he looks so much like Korog as it is. Plus, let's face it, if his entire motivation is helping his loved one, something the Rangers will obviously help him with, then once it's done, he has no motivations to be on Team Evil. And I definitely agree with you. And there was a part of me that was hoping that in this finale for season 1, that the Rangers learned his true plan, right? Because the Rangers just face off against him like he's a monster with this evil experiment, and he's trying to do something with somebody in this weird capsule, right? Without really asking what his motivations are. So I think the idea of seeing if they ever were to find out what his motivations are, I think the Power Rangers would probably have a completely different approach in regards to how they handle Void Knight. Instead of trying to destroy, it might be a case of trying to help, sort of thing. So it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me to see that happen. It would make sense, but we'll see what route Simon Bennett and the writers decide to go What if he and Santora were actually from Ravcon and were Rangers? Hence the twin Raptor Zords. One is black and the other one is white, like Santora's outfit. We can get a flashback to they were Rangers, exclusive Rangers, if just for one episode, considering Power Rangers tends to be cheap in the Saban and Disney era. You know, I don't know if they're from Ravcon. Maybe Santora is. Um, the only reason why I say that or I have pushback against that is because in episode 1 of Dino Fury, Zato recognizes the armor, but I don't think he knows who's in it, right? Because he says, "Where did you get that armor from?" So Zato recognizes it. So maybe the armor itself is from Ravcon, but maybe who's in it is not. Because it felt like a familiar armor, but an unfamiliar voice or presence underneath it, you know? So I'm not under the impression that he is from Ravcon, but I'm not going to call out the question. I'm not going to call out a question for sure. So thank you very much, JK. I really appreciate that. Adrian Perez, what's up, Adrian? Good to see you and with your questions as always, man. Yes, so Rob says almost like Nada in Real Soldier. Absolutely, absolutely. Adrian Perez, he's got a couple questions. He says, I have exciting news. My wife, Joanna, and I have decided to relocate to Sydney, Australia to be closer to her extended family and open a small business there. We would like to open up a cafe. Our move may be finalized in the next month or two. We are excited yet nervous because we will leave our old home behind and some of our old friends. Hey, Adrian, props to you, man. That's a big move. And that's a very ambitious move, man. Congratulations. I really hope that everything works out for you in Sydney, Australia, man, especially with opening a small business like a cafe. I think that's so cool, man. You know, it takes a lot of balls and a lot of guts, I think, to just uproot yourself from where you are. Um, get out of your comfort zone and just move someplace else. Like it's cool at least that she has extended family and that you at least know people there. But you know, packing up and leaving stuff behind is never easy, man. I know what that feeling is like. I had to do that in at the end of my high school. I lived in New Jersey. Granted, I didn't move across the world, but you know, moving from New Jersey after high school to Texas was big. Uprooting my home, moving away from a lot of my friends, having to start over again in Texas. That's a big move and very difficult and hard, just emotionally, you know. So I definitely understand where you're coming from in that regards, but especially in your sense being being a little bit more difficult now because you are moving overseas, right? Like if friends and family in the States want to see you, that's a big trip that you or they certainly have to make kind of going forward. But I think it's really cool in taking that chance and taking that risk and moving and trying to accomplish something for your guys' self, Adrian. I think that's pretty badass, man. So congratulations to you. Not many people can do that. You know, my girlfriend and I were just talking yesterday, you know, about, you know, us living here in Texas and the idea of like, you know, where, you know, have you thought about like moving or where we would move? Like for me, a lot of my extended family is in New York still. My immediate family, like my mom and dad, they're in Georgia. You know, they moved maybe like 5, 6 years ago, I think, from Texas. They moved out to Georgia because my dad just didn't want to retire and live in Texas anymore. And my brother's all the way in Japan now. And so I don't really have outside of like just my friends, you know, I don't really have family that's rooted me here in Texas to move, you know. And so while I always told us like, you know, I would be open to the idea of moving. Not quite sure exactly where yet, but you know, if anything for me, my concern would be about her because her family is here. You know what I mean? So you know, we've tossed out the idea Cali, but then again, a lot of people from Cali are moving here to Texas, sort of thing. You know, the rate of living here is just significantly less. No state taxes. Like there are benefits to certainly living in Texas that I definitely appreciate, despite the fact of it being a Republican state. If you can get over that hiccup of what Texas certainly is, I personally enjoy living out here. I really do. I haven't had any issues with it personally, but I have always thought about maybe possibly moving someday. Canada is certainly an option. I've always thought about the idea of like some place where they do film production. So I guess that would be open to Cali, Georgia, Canada, London, New Zealand. But I don't know. I don't know. Datella says, I want to move out of the West Coast. Been here my whole life, especially I've been traveling and and seeing what else is out there. Yeah, definitely a lot out there, and whether you got to travel to see what's out there before you can kind of make that decision, who knows? I just know the girlfriend has said to me, if anything, we would like some land. She personally would like a land, maybe a little bit of a small little ranch or something, whether that be near a lake, whether that just be land for her to live on. Who certainly knows? But we'll see. We'll see if we ever do move. But Adrian, congratulations, man. That's a big move, and best wishes to you guys. Would you like Power Rangers SPD to return to the small screen? It was one of the best seasons in the franchise and Disney era itself. This could apply to past seasons of your choosing. How would you compare both SPD and of course, Time Force aside from them being cop themed? I always really enjoyed just the themes that SPD and Time Force were able to definitely tackle. I do think some of those themes would certainly hold up today. I don't necessarily need like a sequel though. Or a return of these seasons, if anything. For me, like I don't need like a SPD 2.0 to see like a new generation. Although actually, thinking about it, the idea of a new generation of SPD would be pretty cool. I just don't know if I would necessarily give them their own show right away. Maybe have them pop up in a movie or something like that, as like a cameo and then work a spinoff out. That might actually be able to work. Especially if you're dealing with just space in general. I got to think that there's always going to be um, some sort of space squad out there, um, patrolling the galaxy and stuff. So, like, I would like to see them used in a more cameo form. And then after a couple of cameos, I think you could probably maybe spin them off. So, yeah, I guess if anything, that would be pretty cool. Now that I think about it, Adrian, I guess I probably would be a little bit more open to seeing SPD. I don't necessarily know if every Power Ranger team can kind of pull that off, but I think the idea of a space patrol um kind of group just already existing in the world and in the universe would be a really cool cameo from time to time, right? Like if you're on another planet, like if the Rangers are on another planet and they're getting into a scuffle, who's to say somebody hasn't called SPD to come and try and squash it, and all of a sudden we get introduced to the brand new red SPD Ranger that comes in and tries to, put some order to it. So I kind of dig it, man. I kind of dig it. I would love to see there be a SPD group out there in the world. And then once you've used them a couple times, then maybe spin it off into its own series. But I think because of it's a police and it's like a patrolling sort of thing in the bigger scheme of the universe and galaxy, I think you could probably bring a team back like that if you wanted to. What are some of the pros and cons of Power Rangers being revamped with Hasbro and Jonathan Entwistle reimagining? Following, if the rumors were true of Power Rangers production moving to Canada from New Zealand, what are some of the pros and cons of moving there? I know a lot of people, when they hear of a show being filmed in Canada, like in Vancouver, they feel the sour taste of CW shows. And I don't think you should. I don't think you should feel a sour taste in the CW shows. Some people can have to say what they want about CW shows, but those shows are popular as fuck. Like they if they don't necessarily get a lot of views on, say, the CW, they do big numbers when it comes to streaming. On streaming services. I think that's really where a lot of the money maker comes from, producing these shows. I don't think that they get I don't think they get a lot of money from them airing on CW, whereas they get a lot of their money from the streaming rights that come from it. And I think the CW's done a really great job in producing some great shows. I don't know where like Riverdale and Nancy Drew and Supernatural were all like, something like that tells me that they were filmed in Vancouver. and Supernatural had like 10 plus seasons. So it is, I think people should take that sour taste out of their mouth when it comes to Canada, because Canada has produced some incredible shows that have certainly um yeah, even Red is Not a Flavor says, look, the production value alone would be an upgrade. I think they've got such a great production studio or production company over in Vancouver, and I think they would definitely put a little bit more attention to detail out there. Not to say that the New Zealand cast isn't doing everything that they certainly could. I think maybe New Zealand was a fallback from them because of the fact that it was so much cheaper. But when I look at shows like I don't care what people think about the DC television universe, those shows to me are produced better than what we've gotten from Power Rangers in New Zealand. Marcelino says The Boys is even shot in Canada. So yeah, get this mindset out of your head. If there are people out there that are sour on the idea of Canada, as a production company, please get that out of your head, because a lot of great shows have definitely come out of Canada. Again, one of the reasons why it was a recommendation for me to even move there, because of the fact that their production company has been so stellar out there. So if the move is uh, not necessarily, if it's not a rumor and it turns out to be true, I think it's a fantastic move. And I think also you're closer for actors in the past. If they want to come back from cameos, you can certainly do that. Probably a lot probably a lot easier for them to travel, get access, visas, and things like that, compared to New Zealand right now with everything that's going on with COVID. They've been shutting down their borders for quite some time, making it very difficult to kind of get in and out, if you will. Djokovic, one of the biggest tennis stars, can't even get back home to Australia. So it's definitely some pros and definitely some cons for sure, but I would love the move to Canada, honestly. As far as some of the pros and cons of Power Rangers being revamped, you just missed the mark. The con could just be you missed the mark and just don't have compelling storylines. The pros would just be just launching Power Rangers into a new stratosphere that it hasn't seen in years. Really tapping into the pros would definitely be able to tap into all demographics, not just those of 6 year olds, but really trying to implant Power Rangers back into pop culture in a more modernized way for everybody of all ages, which certainly would be the route to go. I mean, this franchise is almost 30 years old, guys, right? Like you no longer have the kids that grew up on Power Rangers aren't kids anymore. Now they've gotten kids, and maybe their kids have got kids for all we know. So if anything, it is one of those things where I feel like now you got to start broadening your audience, not only capturing the kids, but now making stuff for people that were fans of the show growing up, that are much older now and still love that sort of type of content. And so I think the idea of this could be a massive pro for reimagining and all the the different types of medians and things like that they definitely want to get into. The pros is that, I mean, the cons would just be, a lot of swings and misses. You're definitely taking a risk. Maybe the CGI for your Zord battles aren't where it needs to be. Maybe they're just not that compelling enough. Maybe the characters aren't compelling, or you're still not getting great writers, sort of thing. So it could still certainly blow up in their face. There's always going to be pros and cons about it, but I feel like if anything, there's probably more pros than cons of the idea of doing sort of a reimagining. Like at this point in time, like it's just a case of Power Rangers has got to do something different. Okay. Recycling the same thing that it's been doing for years is getting you nowhere, with the exception of declining viewership each and every year and every year. Like as us as Power Ranger fans, we like this. We probably don't mind the status quo. We've grown up with the status quo for so many years, that for some of us, we're okay being in this little niche that we're in right now. Um, but that is very much sort of holding Power Rangers back from what it certainly could be. And I do think Power Rangers, especially in a time period where anything superhero genre related is just blowing up and gaining popularity, to want to keep Power Rangers just in this box of only being able to do what it can based off of other footage, I think is just a real disservice to what Power Rangers is, what it means, and what it could be as a franchise once again. So I don't think that there's could it be a gigantic miss? Absolutely. But I'd rather take a swing and do something new and unique to try and revitalize and inject some energy back into this franchise instead of not doing anything at all and just slowly watching Power Rangers just dwindle away within like the next 10 or 20 years, guys. If that, maybe 10 years, if that. You know what I'm saying? So it's got to do something. It's got to do something. Red is not a flavor says with everyone's fandom coming into mainstream, Voltron, right? Transformers, He-Man, Marvel, My Little Pony, etc. Why do you think Power Rangers isn't taken seriously as a fandom? Because it's not getting the recognition and the push like those franchises are. You know, Voltron got a brand new animated series that ran for like 6 seasons over on Netflix, brought it back into the minds, wind up getting the people that did Legends of Korra and Avatar's the animated series, and put together a stellar storyline for Voltron, right? Boosting it again, taking an old franchise that was kind of dead, injecting some life into it, and making it popular again. Same thing with He-Man, bringing that sort of back. Marvel's doing it. Transformers is trying to do it also. So it's all about, you got to take them out of this niche that we've seen for so long, keeping Power Rangers hidden on Nickelodeon, you know, being a penny pincher in regards to all that stuff. You got to do big things. You got to do big things with it. What's up, Mikey? Good to see you in here also, man. Thank you very much. So thank you very much for the questions, Adrian. I really appreciate it. Next couple of questions. Ibase, what's up, Abise? Abise? I hope I'm pronouncing it right again. I apologize. Even though you've already seen and reviewed 10 Gokaiger, how would you summarize your thoughts on the movie? Would you like to see the past Super Sentai 10-year later movie? Plus, what other Super Sentais would you like to have a 10 years later reunion movie, even if they don't actually have to wait 10 years, just the event itself takes place after 10 years or even more? I would love to see a Go Buster 10 years series, 10-year movie. I don't think they've had one. Is their 10th anniversary about to come up? I personally would like to see Go Busters, if that's possible. That would be my next one. But as far as 10 Go Kaiger, I really enjoyed 10 Go Kaiger. For me, honestly, I think one of my favorite scenes in Tengo Kaiger was the idea of Marvelous recognizing the young man from like episode 1 or 2 in the Go Kaiger series and what he grew up to eventually be. That kind of gave me goosebumps and chills. The idea that the creators and the writers of this movie even brought that moment back up. You know, like for me, it was really cool in Gokaiger, the series, to see the idea of Marvel as being so bold as to like, you know, this kid is getting on my case about protecting Earth. He clearly wants to protect it. You want to protect a kid? Do it yourself. And just literally handing this little kid his changer, and to see this kid go ahead and try and whip that ass and then get his ass beat in an extent, but also just give Marvelous a very valuable lesson that I think ever from that moment he's carried around with him for 10 years. He truly understands the value of what Earth is and is willing to fight for it now, whereas compared to the first episode, he didn't know what the value or what the secret behind Earth was, what made it so special. So the fact that we get Marvelous, who was a disbeliever, now coming back after so many years and coming back to Earth and giving that same message to the kid that pushed him into believing that Earth is worth fighting for, that gave me chills and goosebumps to kind of just see that concept and idea just come complete and full circle, you know? And I also love just the idea of how it captured a very modern time and to kind of see how the Gokaijers are very displaced in returning to Earth after such a long time. You know, bringing up the idea of like sports betting and somehow being able to integrate Super Sentai into it, but also at the same time focusing on like the greed of the government, if you will, right? The greed of people that still want to have power, and using things that are meant for good in a very selfish sort of way and mentality. They're just some really great themes of modern times as us as a society and how we've dealt with things about the idea of like, is Earth even worth fighting for? And despite a lot of the negativity, and a lot of the tribalism sort of that's gone on in this world, there's always something golden. You know, there's always something that reminds you that there is something worth fighting for, that we can't continue to kind of go down this path. And I think 10 Gokaiger just showcases that just absolutely brilliantly. And so I had a lot of fun with it, man. I had a lot of fun with it. Getting the opportunity to see Guy and the rest of the characters, how much they've grown, the fact that, you know, they were teased that, oh my goodness, did the Gokai just break up? Are they fighting amongst each other, sort of thing? And then to kind of see how the plan and the story kind of all comes full circle. I really love the execution of the movie. I thought it actually worked out relatively well for me. So yeah, thanks for the question, Abise. Next question from him. After finally watching Super Sentai Car Ranger, I found a new respect for Turbo. Car Ranger was an obvious joke, a complete parody to everything they had done in the past. I completely understand that after 20 seasons, you want to try something like that, but PR were only in their fifth season at the time, and they had the same continuity and mostly the same team from the start. They couldn't just become parodies of themselves all of a sudden. They added a kid to the team to bring more lightheartedness, but they also needed to respect the continuity in what they have built so far. Granted, they still made some bad decisions during that season, but still managed to have one of the darkest season ending. I definitely won't look down on this season as I did in the past. You know, I'm really glad that you bring that up, Abise, because I want to say, was it last week or the week before? I can't remember if we were talking about Turbo. It's not a season that I definitely enjoy, but you're right, right? Like when it comes to Car Ranger, Super Sentai earned sort of that right to change things up and do things on a much more comedic level. I remember doing my reactions, I think, for Gokaiger, and anytime the Car Ranger episodes came up in regards to them paying homage and stuff, you know, it was always a very jokey, lighthearted, not taking itself very seriously. And I remember somebody in the comment section saying, you know, that's just what Car Ranger was like, though. It was very much a parody, kind of a joke, if you will, didn't take itself very seriously. And while I haven't watched Car Ranger, understanding the type of season that it is, and then we always talk about the idea of, you know, how are these shows going to be adapted to Power Rangers, right? Going back and thinking about how Turbo was, while it may not necessarily connected with us or with some people, it definitely held true to the idea of adapting what came before it. And for it to adapt that way, I think was probably rather successful in its adaptation. But maybe here, the execution for here in the States, maybe not so much, right? Because, like you mentioned, while Super Sentai had 20 years or however long it was when Car Ranger dropped, Power Rangers only had 5. So that's a pretty abrupt sort of change to the formula that you've had so far. So I can see why it left a bad taste in people's mouths. But I think it's a great idea that you watched Car Ranger and it gave you a completely different respect and thought process when it comes to Turbo. I think that's really important. So thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Mike Knight does say Turbo good got really good this once the second cast wind up coming in. Um, let's see here. In your last question, you say after Die Ranger officially being adapted into Power Rangers in the comic books form, what Sentai series would you like to see adapted or have continuation? This would also apply to Power Rangers. When do you think we will have a comic book focused sequel of Power Rangers that's a longer MMPR with having them just there as supporting characters? Well, let me see the first half of the question. Outside of Die Ranger, look, we've already seen. I think we've seen Flashman brought into the comic books for the Power Ranger Unlimited one shot of Astronema. Um, I would love to see them brought back. I want to say the red, or I want to say the green Flashman wind up actually escaping and getting away from Astronema. So I feel like there might be uh, a hanging storyline there to definitely go ahead and tackle. So give me Jetman along with Flashman. I would even maybe even take like a Sun Vulcan. I would love to see something like that tackled in the comic books too. When do you think we will have a comic book focus slash sequel of Power Rangers that's no longer MMPR? That's a good question. A new comic book focus of Power Rangers that's no longer MMPR next year, maybe. I don't know. I feel like we are working towards another group or team of Power Rangers at some point in time. Well, we'll see though. Thank you very much for your questions, Matthew Rivera. What's up, Matthew? Appreciate you coming through today. What are some of your favorite human supporting characters in Power Rangers who aren't Rangers or villains? Human supporting characters. For some reason, while I wasn't the biggest fan of Mystic Force, the um the owner of the record shop for some reason has lasting memories on me. Um he was definitely always one that stood out to me. Always a big fan. Commander Shaw from Beast Morphers was also another one that I really respected. Those are two right off the top of my head. Like I could say Bulk and Skull, but I feel like that's just um too fan servicey. But yeah, Commander Shaw for me, and then even the just to be random, the record shop owner from from Mystic Force. Why not? Why not? And even I can't remember. Don't hate me, guys, for not remembering this. Um, damn it. Hold on, guys. Give me a second here. There's somebody else I wanna I just can't remember his name, but don't hate me. Um, their sensei from Ninja Storm. I don't believe he ever turned into a ranger. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but I don't believe he ever turned into a ranger. So yeah, probably him too from Ninja Storm. Let's see here. Megaforce could have turned out a lot better if Gokaiger was skipped completely and only material from Goseiger was adapted. Trying to fit the entirety of Sentai season with all of his toys included in 20 episodes was just a terrible idea, regardless of Gokaiger strapped on afterwards doing the same thing. No, I totally agree with you, Matthew. I really would have just rather preferred. Yeah, Sensei. Thank you very much. Yeah, they're Sensei. They're Sensei. Excuse me. They're Sensei Sarov. That's exactly who I'm talking about. So yeah, those would probably be my three human supporting characters that I was always a big fan of. Um, but going back to the Megaforce thing, yeah, I think Megaforce should have been all Ghost Sager. I think it should have just been focused on that. And then I think while you say you think Gokaiger should have been skipped completely, I didn't mind the idea of Gokaiger being adapted. I would have loved to have seen it adapted, but in its own series. I hated the fact that Ghost Sager and Gokaiger were just smashed together. I thought it was just a disservice to both seasons, especially Gokaiger, because you really couldn't tap into its truest potential. So I definitely agree with you. This is just me, but it would be absolutely wild if we ever got a Power Ranger versus Super Sentai special. That would be pretty cool. I have no idea how they would do it. Guess they'd have to dub over the foreign actors for their respective markets, but it would be crazy fun. What do you think? Yeah, I would love it. I remember Yoshi Sudarso popping up in an episode of Ninja, interacting with his. Did he pop up in Ninja, or was that? I want to say he did pop up in Ninja. as a brief cameo or like just a supporting cast. Like I think the Blue Ranger like came in and shoot him along or something like that. I believe that was the ninja that Yoshi was a part of. Or was that a Ninja Steel episode? I don't believe so. I want to say that that was definitely Yoshi was in a Super Sentai series interacting with the Blue Ranger, no less. Let's see here. A couple of other questions. We got Michael Rhymes. What's up, Michael? Appreciate you coming through today with the questions, man. If Simon Bennett, who was the current showrunner of Power Rangers, was the showrunner during this Neo Saban era, do you think those seasons that failed hard would have been much better, especially with current writers who worked on the show since then? How would you see Samurai, all of the Megaforce, and Ninja Steel changed under a vision of Simon? Probably not much. For me, I don't necessarily know if it was the showrunner so much that was the issue as it was Nickelodeon and Saban specifically. Um, because I feel like even when Saban sort of left, for me, I felt like that's when Beast Morphers kind of picked up a little bit. Chip Lynn was certainly still around, right? This was a story that he had in his back pocket for years. That when it was revealed that Beast Morphers was going to be the next adaptation, he kind of took this story out of that drawer, dusted it off and stuff, and revisited it. So I think when I look back at where we're at right now, I don't know if any showrunner would have been able to make significant changes to the season. I think because of the fact that you would have had somebody like Saban um, really hindering, um, really hindering Power Rangers from being what it potentially could. So, again, as much as I love Simon Bennett, I think even if he was working during the Neo Saban era, I think the influence of Saban would have overwhelmed Simon Bennett's vision of what he probably would have liked to have seen. So yeah, I would put a lot of that on Saban. Datilla says, I don't think they would have changed Saban as the Vince McMahon of Power Rangers. Yeah, I don't think anybody would have been able to change Saban's mind, honestly. Um, did you know that Amit Baumick, I apologize if I destroyed that name. No, I didn't mean to. Who was the primary writer of Power Ranger Wild Force, included the Fantastic Forever Red 10th anniversary team, wrote on Twitter years ago that he pitched an idea for an extravaganza anniversary to Jonathan Zacher for the 20th anniversary. Oh, I did not know that. That's pretty cool. He wrote, months ago, someone asked if we might see a Forever Red 2, and I had to be a little coy with my answer as I was pitching JT on the idea. I told Zachary we were incredibly lucky to be able to do a 10-year anniversary episode in the midst of Fox to Disney transition uncertainty. It was a miracle the universe put us in the place where we had a chance to do a 20th anniversary episode, Super Mega Force. Why not do another mega crossover? We could have had 20 Red Rangers for 20 years and make things manageable. Maybe just bring back 8 to 10 Reds from various seasons, or maybe forget the whole red concept and make it a variety of colors or a different color. 20th anniversary, sky's the limit, right? His response was, what is forever red? He says, granted, the chances of working out were incredibly small, but it would be nice if the executive producer, one of the writers who actually worked on the episode, I remember what the hell it was. I think that he does. Like, I think I want to say that, like, I want to say like maybe he was asking or made that question in jest, like just in joking sort of thing. Because the fact that he brings up all that stuff, months ago, someone asked me if we might see a Forever Red 2, and I had to be a little bit coy with my answer because he knows what they were talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that he brought up the Jonathan Zacher and what they did 10 years ago, I'm pretty sure he knows what Forever Red certainly is. He might have just been, like he said, I had to be a little bit coy with my answer. Um, so I think maybe that's why he said what is forever red, right? Just being joking and maybe not trying to give away too many details. But I think he knows exactly what he's talking about, especially if he went into great depth to talk about what they did 10 years ago, what they tried to do 20 years ago. For 20th anniversary, bringing back all the Reds, he very much knows what he's talking about for sure. Johnny Marrero, what's up, Johnny? Appreciate you coming through. Um, Three questions. Which month is the most likely to premiere season 2 of Power Rangers Dino Fury? March, mid or late April, or early May? I would say mid or late April, if I had to guess. Yeah, give me mid or late April. Do you think Netflix will drop a block of 11 episodes or drop all episodes of Dino Fury season 2? I think I'm under the impression as a two-parter, so I'm thinking 11 here and 11 later, but that's just me. Do you believe the Mighty Morphin comics will see the Rangers go for Zeo powers as early transition or go straight for the ninja powers? I say Zeo powers. I say Zeo powers. I feel like we're far along enough to see Zeo powers. We've already kind of tackled Zeo crystals in the Beyond the Grid storyline. I would say Zeo crystals if I had to um, suggest anything. Let's see here. Mike Knight Hero says, "Hey Adam, have you seen the tweets Ryan Parrott dropped on Twitter? Fans harassing his family about Power Rangers. Some people just toxic. Need to calm down." Yeah, man. I had never heard anything like that before, man. Like I really have not. I did see the tweets, yes, and it kind of really blew me away. Like I get the idea of people harassing like the creators, unfortunately, but the idea of them reaching out to other family members, I mean, that is just a case of some sort of mental disorder. Like I feel like somebody needs to find these people that are doing it and really give them some help in the sense of not understanding human boundaries. And the idea of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable just when it comes to society in general. Like I think somebody needs to sit down with them and hopefully like realign their mind in regards to how to treat people with some respect. Like I know we are a fan and a lover of this fandom, but I know the short term for a fan is fanatic, but we don't gotta act like fanatics and like a bunch of wild ass people that don't know how to be humans or remember the things that we were taught as a kid in regards to respecting one another and respecting people's boundaries. These days we've got these keyboard warriors that think that they can just kind of get away with anything. And honestly, if somebody was harassing my family, I would put APB out on this dude. Like whoever these people are, I don't know if there's a way to, is there like a social media police? Is there like, can we, if you're threatening people, I mean, that's got to be against the law in some way, right? Can I try and lock these people up or some sort of misdemeanor or give them a ticket or some jail time for for harassment? You know what I'm saying? Like that's just overboard. I know we love this fandom and stuff, but to the point of that, um, is just downright disrespectful and mental, to be perfectly honest with you. So it's pretty disgusting, man. And it's one of those things like it just continues to show why we as fans can't have nice things because we unfortunately get people like that unfortunately ruin things for us. So there's difference between trolling and just being the dick. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody likes trolls or assholes or anything like that, but to take it to the point of reaching out to family members because Ryan doesn't respond or doesn't want to take your advice and your ideas, like that's just mental. And like that's definitely a case of somebody needs help, you know? So hopefully they find the help that they need after spending some jail time. But yeah, it's just uncalled for, man. It's just uncalled for. I don't know why we continue to do this. Um, but yeah, Datilla, they give people like that definitely give the fandom a bad name. And I appreciate Simon and Ryan, both Simon Bennett and Ryan Parrott, to understand that it's not the entire fandom, but unfortunately, every fandom does have very toxic people. And I feel like that even goes a little bit even beyond being toxic, honestly. Like that's just dangerous. Like if they're willing to do that, what else do they feel the need to kind of express? You know what I'm saying? And so that type of stuff really needs to be shut down quickly. Jordan does say it's crazy how toxic social media can be in general, to be honest. It really is. And unfortunately, while the internet was a great invention, it also gave people a platform to think that everything that they say is right, and that everything that their opinions is the best opinion out there, and that nobody can disagree with them, sort of thing. It's really empowered people that shouldn't have that type of power. And it's kind of really gotten out of hand these particular days, unfortunately. um Marcelino says, I hear some celebrities defend their actions by saying they're not toxic but passionate. Unfortunately, listen, and then, and I can understand that, but I think there's also a level of reality that your passion can only go but so far. Your passion can turn toxic, and I don't care how passionate you are. You don't reach out to my goddamn family. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just crossing a line. That's you know your passion can get you in trouble. You know what I'm saying? We've seen it through the course of history, for sure. So yeah, man, definitely don't defend that. Hey, they're definitely passionate, that's for sure, but let's elaborate a little bit more about how passionate they are, because that shit is dangerous. Marcelino Vasquez says, when it comes to the world of Power Rangers, we can accept a lot of weird things that happen in Power Rangers, like robots turning into humans, or how someone once turned into a Power Ranger, they are instantly given the knowledge of how to use their new abilities. But what are some things that you can't see existing in Power Rangers? What do you consider breaking the rules of the world of Power Rangers? Nothing. Nothing at this point. Um, I think if there's anything that I've learned from the morphing grid in the past 2 seasons of Beast Morphers and Dino Fury, is that nothing is impossible when it comes to the morphing grid. The morphing grid works in mysterious ways. You know what I mean? So I think you can almost get away with anything. Um, you got a pet dog, you want to turn him into a ranger? Boom, do it. That maybe that might be far fetched for some people. Like for me, just going back to like talking about Star Wars, right? I think the idea of putting restraints on Star Wars or even Power Rangers maybe does it a little bit of a disservice, um, so that when somebody does want to introduce something unique and different, if it doesn't fit what we think Power Rangers should be, there's automatically going to be pushback against it. Um, Oh, but he goes into I can't accept civilians surviving explosions they can't survive from. I can understand that, right? Maybe a little bit more realism in the sense. So yeah, I guess it's not everything. But I guess for me, my mind went to the idea of like when you say Power Rangers, I don't know why my mind went to like just the morphing grid and like what it's capable of doing. So I get what you're saying, right? There's always a ton of explosions that we see, whether it be civilian fights and things like that. Like I would like there to be I don't want to say a grim like a death toll or anything like that, but we see buildings being destroyed all the time. Like it's hard for me to see that like nobody died in this Zord battle at all. Um, Here's an example. People can't accept Rey from Star Wars doing the stuff she does because she is a Mary Sue, which I never even considered her as a Mary Sue. I really didn't. Um, um, but yeah, I mean, like, it's such a fantastical world. We're dealing with the world of like fantasy and stuff. Like Super Sentai is literally about to have CG characters. Um, You know what I mean? Become rangers. They literally are going to have what is it? A swan or what kind of animal is it? They got like a fox, or excuse me, they got like a dog, and they've got like another bird creature that are literally about to become rangers, man. You know, so even the concept of having your pet dog become a Power Ranger is not out of the realm of possibility. You know, Mike Nice says, I agree. All Zord battles they had in Angel Grove, that area should be a crater or wasteland. Yeah, absolutely. Like I definitely wouldn't like. I wouldn't mind the realism in that sense. Like, I want to see some buildings under construction, man. Like still building back after the Battle of the Zords. Just little things like that, little attention to the detail. So it may not have answered your question, Marcelino, but again, I'm really one against putting Power Rangers or any other franchise in a box in regards to like what are things you can see existing or not existing, what's going to be breaking the rules of the world. I think if you're already dealing with the world of fantasy and dealing with the idea of kids that can morph into superheroes, you know, I'm cool with whatever they want to pull off. I'm not trying to restrain Power Rangers from being something. Dino, Doomsday. We got questions from Doomsday. Which morph call do you like the most besides its morphing time? Ready, Let's Ranger up, or just automatically like they did in Samurai? I don't really know all the morphing calls off the top of my head. You guys list some morphing calls in the comment section. I'll let you know which ones are my favorite. I'm cool with them just kind of doing it if they want to. I know a lot of people are maybe tired of the it's morphing time, but I love it's morphing time. It may be a little bit too nostalgic and maybe a little bit too old, but I really don't mind it so much. But there are some good ones out there. I just can't remember off the top of my head all of them. Link to Morphing Grid. No. Shifting the Turbo. I was a big fan of Shifting the Turbo. Let's Rock It. I was a big fan of that one too. Time Force. SPD Emergency. Lightspeed Rescue. Nah. Let's Rock It was definitely one of my favorites. God damn, Attila. Magical Source. Mystic. Nah. Just Storm Ranger form. Huh. Let's Rock It. Shift into Turbo. Time Force. SPD Emergency was pretty cool too. RPM Get in Gear. Yes. Wild Access. Wild Access is probably my favorite. Wild Access is probably my favorite. Yeah, Wild Access is probably my favorite. Those are some great ones, though. Those are some great ones, guys. Thank you very much. Let's Rock It is awesome too. I do like Let's Rock It. Yeah, probably the Wild Access, Let's Rock It. Man, if I had to do like a top 5 real quick, definitely Wild Access is number 1 for me. You'll probably definitely will get Let's Rock It. Shift in the Turbo was there. I'll definitely get RPM Get in Gear. And then give me Time Force as my top 5. Doomsday also says, in passing the torch, when Tommy, Kat, Adam, and Tanya were passing their powers on to TJ, Cassie, Carlos, and Ashley, would you like to see Justin pass his powers onto Rocky? No. No, I'm good with that. I'm good. Datilla says, by the way, does anyone know how to properly shift in the turbo? They do their arm gestures so quick. Like, I, I used to always love it though. I love the morphin sequence and then the key into the fucking. I loved it. I really did. Like, I may not be the biggest fan of turbo, but I thought their hand gestures and their yeah, just their movements was pretty badass. Do you think we'll ever get to see Rangers kiss on TV? Because so far the only one we've seen was Tommy and Kimberly. Everyone else was so close until someone ruined the moment. And Calvin and Haley did have one, but it was deleted. Yeah, man, I really would have loved to have seen that Calvin and Haley one for Ninja Steel. I do think that we'll get one. In fact, I'm gonna go so far and say we'll get one this season. I'm gonna say we'll get one for Dino Fury. Give me a Kai and Amelia kiss, or an Ollie and Ollie and Amelia kiss. Nah, I don't know if that's gonna happen, but um, I would be open to it. I hope it happens. I hope it happens. I'm there with you, Byron. Jen and Wes should have kissed. Should have kissed. It is like one of the biggest like drawbacks from that series. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's a ton of weight in regards to some people maybe appreciating the fact that they didn't, but I felt like it was such a buildup and it never happening was such a letdown that did bum me out. But just they should have kissed. I'm completely on board with you there, Byron. Jordan says an Izzy kiss. You know, we've seen Izzy and Fern, or is haven't they kissed each other on the cheek before? I think Izzy kissed her on the cheek. I don't know if we get a lip to lip Izzy moment. Um, but maybe Ollie and Amelia, maybe an Ollie and Amelia. Blossom says, I don't know. I don't blame you either. Hey, look, sometimes the way Amelia's looking at Ollie, I'm just thinking something like she wants it. She wants it. Um, Blossom says, I don't want to see that. Yeah, I'm sure some people probably don't. All right, let's see here. But I do think we'll get it eventually. If not this season, definitely some other time. L'Oreal's got some questions. L'Oreal says, "What are you expecting for next season of Dino Fury?" What are you expecting next season of Dino Fury? All mayhem. I definitely do think Simon Bennett and the writers are going to go balls to the walls, man. I think they're going to give us some really great television. I think you've got all the momentum swinging in your favor. Learning more about Rafcon and the mystery behind Zato and Ion's past. You also got Santora, who's continuing the cook in her pod. Void Knight's still out there. I think we're going to get more backstory on him. Lord Zed certainly returning, or at least I'm keeping my fingers crossed that he's returning. Like, it would be hard for me to fathom that he's not involved in some way or another. Like, whether that be the first half of season one or the second half, I definitely do think he's going to have a integral story to definitely play in this. So, yeah, it would not surprise me at all. I think they're going to pull a trigger on a lot of things that I'm really looking forward to. Heard any news about Zenkaiger character songs for next month? I have not. I have not heard anything about that. I remember Caramager having some character songs, but I haven't heard anything in regards to Zenkaiger yet, like as far as like a soundtrack or something. Still waiting for Hasbro to create the Flargon ice cream. Yeah, like come on, Hasbro, marketing, man, marketing. Can we get a Dino Fury limited time, like work with Ben and Jerry's or something like that to create a Flargon ice cream? I mean, maybe Power Rangers as a franchise is so like it's non-existent these days in people's minds. The idea of like offering a limited time, like I don't even know if Ben and Jerry would even waste their time trying to do something like that. But damn, Hasbro, if I would not want to try some Flargon ice cream, I need to try some. Don't tease me with it and mention it if I can't even taste it. If you can have a team of Rangers with you as a leader, who can they be? Oh, if you can have a team of Rangers with me as the leader, who would they be? Both Sentai and Power Rangers. For me, I'd choose Bridge, Kagura, Justin, Emily, Amelia, and of course, Juru. That's a good one. So outside of me, I definitely need Jen in there for sure. Give me TJ um, in there also. Give me Luca. Part of me wants to say marvelous, but at the same time, I don't want him to butt heads with TJ. So TJ, Jen, Luca, Kaido. Hmm. Who is I got TJ, Jen, Kaido, Luca. So one more. Hmm. I'm trying to think of which direction I want to go. Oh, you know what? Give me Jake. Yes. Yeah, I would love to see Jake and Kaido actually interact with one another. And then if I had to get a sixth stranger in there, it doesn't necessarily even have to be a sixth stranger, but you know what? I'm gonna go back to my Go Buster days. And I think I'm gonna try and bring in Yuji. I think I'm gonna try and bring in Yuji also. Usai says, Juro, bro. I mean, if you're gonna play the GOAT Marvelous, put the second string greatest, in my opinion, Juro on that squad. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Juro definitely has a place. I mean, look, I'm just trying to think of it off the top of my head. You know, that's just the I'd really have to sit down and like really formulate like just ideas of who I really want on the team, sort of thing. That's just literally trying to think off the top of my head, though. I mean, the man can literally has a huge imagination where he literally can create anything out of his sketchbook. I think that's super formidable to have on your team. You know what I mean? We got Joey Thompson. What's up, Joey Thompson? Appreciate you certainly coming through. I don't know if we've ever had you answering or posting some questions here, so thank you very much. This may not ever happen due to Hasbro to only have rights of Super Sentai up to Real Soldier, which is now Dino Fury. But this is my take if Tokuja were adapted into Power Rangers. My idea is that it would be a team of misfits. A Red Ranger who's the tech guy, for example, working in a railway museum under a boss called Old Timer. No secret identities like Lightspeed Rescue with their morph call would be line change, which could, that's pretty cool, which could even be used to swap the trains on their morphers, and of course, no longer using its morphing time. Basically, way back when the railways were being built, Old Timer managed to cobble together a connection to the grid to aid with the work. But when his partner in this went rogue, becoming the shadow line, Old Man served the link and went into retirement, severed the link and went into retirement, somehow still being alive in the present day. Cut to the modern day railway museum, and the shadow line returns. Old Timer gives his old morpher to his most trusted employee, who makes some slight tweaks and duplicates it using more modern trains. Um, Now led by a Red Ranger who maybe takes trains a bit too seriously. Four new volunteers at the museum are roped into a ranger team like no other. After all, who needs someone's permission to be a hero? Would also be amazing if they made an all original ranger, if any color that hasn't been used yet or in a while. Plus, I have a cool armor mode that can be switched to the other rangers for use. Also have abilities similar to the armor of Gokai Silver, using powers from the past six rangers, but for Tokuger, just a few that were pretty recent. I actually really like that concept, Joey. I'm actually a really big fan. I actually kind of really dig that. I love the concept of old timer too, and how building the railways kind of connected he connected it to the grid to aid in the work. I actually kind of dig that idea. I think it's a pretty cool concept. So thank you very much for that. Yusai saying Juro is my second favorite Sentai after Marvelous. The kid is hella likable and totally made his whole team better. And to me, that's what every leader should be. Really love that kid. I definitely agree with you, Yusai. Juro definitely left a very lasting impression on me for sure. Um, all right, guys. I think that's all the live viewer questions today, man. So thank you very much for everybody for certainly joining us. Shout out to Joshua Stock too for joining us in our Discord forum as well. And again, guys, remember, if you are joining us live, if you would like to join our Discord forum community, there is a link in the description box below for you guys, so we can have further conversations outside of just this particular community here as well. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, for all of your live viewer questions. I think if anything, that will definitely do it for us. Byron says, if I was a Power Ranger, I would have Russell Curry reprise his role as Zato as my mentor. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, I would love to have Zato as a mentor. He's doing great work with the Dino Fury team, as we can see, especially in that last civilian battle, right? Like all that hard work and training with Zato is definitely, um, they've definitely pulled it off just because of his training alone. So definitely a formidable leader to definitely have as your mentor for sure. All right, guys. Other than that, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for us. If anything, I'm going to go ahead and help take care of kiddo. I'm sure the girlfriend has some things that she wants to try and take care of for the remainder of the day, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. But guys, if you are looking for additional content here this week, if anything, Ultraman Trigger review coming for you guys later on this week, along with Zenkaiger, as well as we get towards the pushing of the finale for a lot of those series. Maybe if anything, I think I might have a couple of more reaction videos from Decker Ranger. I might put up another one for you guys this weekend that I still have unlisted on my YouTube page. I'll go ahead and maybe make that active for the next reaction video for you guys. So still content headed your guys' way. And if anything, we definitely will be back next Saturday going live at 12 p.m. Central Time every Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. But other than that, that's going to go ahead and do it for me. Marcelino says, so Adam, if you don't like to put restraints on fictional universes, then does that mean Superman 4 Quest for Peace? It makes sense. In my 10-year-old mind, yes. I used to actually love Superman 4 Quest for Peace growing up in the day. I mean, cringy. But for me as a kid, it just felt very comic booky, and so I always had like a guilty pleasure for that movie as a kid. No, it doesn't make any sense, but yeah, not everything. Some things will be hit or miss. You know what I mean? Definitely. All right, guys. But other than that, that's going to do it for us here. We certainly will be back next weekend. But in the meantime, do us a big favor. As always, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. May the power protect you. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.